The following short stories will impress you about people with a reverse way of thinking. Story 1. Mr. Alberto, a sophisticated and intelligent man, went to a small restaurant to have a meal. While enjoying his grilled meat, he took out 6 pieces of paper to wipe his mouth. Seeing this, a cleaning staff made a sarcastic remark. "Using so much paper, I don't know if you're wiping your mouth or your butt." The staff's words silenced the whole restaurant, and everyone thought Mr. Alberto would get angry or leave. But contrary to expectations, he kept a calm smile on his face and replied with a short but profound statement. "At home, I use it to wipe my butt, but in a restaurant, I use it to wipe my mouth. But my dear sir, your staff is asking me if this is a restroom or a restaurant." Mr. Alberto's response not only left the staff confused, but also amazed all the customers in the restaurant with his intelligence and graceful handling of the situation. Analyzing the story, we clearly see Mr. Alberto's reverse thinking and the art of his response. Instead of reacting harshly or silently enduring, he chose a gentle but sharp way, using a simple question to defend his dignity and make the other party realize their mistake. The reverse thinking here lies in the fact that he turned the offensive remark into an opportunity to affirm his sophistication and intelligence. The story of Mr. Alberto teaches us a valuable lesson on how to handle difficult situations in life when faced with criticism. Instead of reacting emotionally, we should calmly look at the problem from a different perspective. Reverse thinking not only helps you solve problems effectively, but also affirms your worth in the eyes of others. And this is the art of behavior that everyone should learn. Story 2. Mr. Max, a wealthy man, did not have children because his wife was unable to have children, and out of deep affection for his wife, he did not want to marry another woman. This worried him that his family's assets might fall into the hands of others when he passed away. One day, while watching his nephew playing in the yard, he had a clever idea. He asked the nephew to measure the yard, and when Mr. Max's wife saw this, she asked, "What are you doing?" The nephew innocently replied, "I'm measuring the yard so that it will be mine later. Since you don't have children, I think this yard will be mine." Hearing this, Mr. Max's wife became very angry and realized that if they didn't change, the family's assets could fall into the hands of outsiders. Finally, she herself urged Mr. Max to marry another wife to have an heir to protect the family's property. Analyzing the story, we see that Mr. Max cleverly used reverse thinking to solve a delicate problem. Instead of directly arguing or forcing his wife to change her mindset, he chose to create a situation that would make her realize the importance of having an heir. This approach not only avoided creating conflict, but also made his wife the one to make the decision, making it easier to reach an agreement. This story is evidence of the power of reverse thinking in solving sensitive issues. In life, when faced with barriers and opinions, instead of imposing your views, put the other person in a situation and let them recognize the problem themselves. Reverse thinking not only helps solve problems but also protects important relationships in life. This is a valuable lesson we should apply. Story 3. One evening at a fancy party, Mr. Alex was sitting across from a beautiful and arrogant woman with a sophisticated air. Mr. Alex started the conversation. "Hello, you are a very beautiful woman." However, instead of thanking him, the woman replied in a haughty tone, "I'm sorry, I have no way to say something similar to you." The people around them began to feel the tense atmosphere, but Mr. Alex remained calm. He smiled gently and said, "No problem, you can just tell a lie like I did." This response from Mr. Alex left the woman flustered, her face burning with embarrassment. Soon after, she had to move to another table to avoid the gaze of the others. This story is a clear demonstration of Alex's intelligence and graceful behavior. Instead of reacting harshly or feeling hurt by the woman's arrogant remark, Mr. Alex chose a gentle but sharp response. His statement not only maintained politeness but also made the other person realize the lack of tact in her own actions. Analyzing the story, we see Mr. Alex's reverse thinking. Instead of confronting the arrogant attitude directly, he chose to turn the situation around with a humorous but sophisticated statement. This thinking not only protected his own image, but also made the other person reevaluate her own conduct. This is a valuable lesson in communication. Sometimes the delicacy and calmness can have more power than any criticism. The story teaches us that in interactions, instead of confrontation, we should find ways to turn a difficult situation into an opportunity to affirm our own intelligence and refinement. Reverse thinking not only helps us overcome awkward situations, but also makes us respected in the eyes of others. Story 4. There was a wealthy man who always lived in fear that his house would be burgled whenever he left home. After much thought, he decided to get a dog to guard the house, but he hesitated because keeping a dog would cost money for food and care. This dilemma bothered him until one day he had a surprising and creative idea. Before leaving the house, he decided to leave his home's Wi-Fi password open and allow free access. Immediately, this attracted the attention of many people living nearby, and from that day on, there were dozens of people gathered in front of his house to use the free Wi-Fi. Thanks to this crowd, his house was inadvertently protected in a natural way. Burglars dared not approach because there were always people in front of the house. As a result, he could leave the house with peace of mind without having to pay for security or a guard dog. This story is a typical example of the power of reverse thinking. Instead of using the usual solutions like hiring a guard or keeping a dog, he looked at the problem from a different angle and turned a simple thing like Wi-Fi into a means of protecting his home. This is the creativity in thinking that can effectively solve problems without the need for costly measures. From this story, we learn an important lesson. Sometimes, by just changing our perspective on a problem, reverse thinking can lead us to unique and surprising solutions that go beyond traditional approaches. In life, instead of following the well-trodden path, try to look at issues from a new angle, as the simplest things can sometimes be the best solutions. Story 5. There was a wealthy man named David who went to buy tomatoes at a small store. He asked the seller the price and was told it was $16 per pound. After thinking, he chose 2 medium-sized tomatoes and placed them on the scale. Then he also added the largest tomato and put it on the scale with the other 2. The seller weighed them and said, "That's $10. Calmly, David took the largest tomato off the scale and said, "I don't need this one anymore." The seller immediately changed his attitude and became irritated, saying, "Okay, $8 then." In reality, the largest tomato he removed was heavier than the 2 on the scale, and it was clear the seller was trying to overcharge. However, David remained calm, took $2 out of his pocket to pay, but instead of taking the 2 small tomatoes, he took the largest one and happily left. This story is a wonderful illustration of reverse thinking and skillful handling of the situation. Instead of directly arguing about the seller's unreasonable pricing, David chose a more intelligent course of action. He accepted paying the price the seller wanted, but still managed to get the most valuable item. Analyzing the story, the important lesson here is that reverse thinking not only helps you achieve your goal, but also does so in a gentle and non-confrontational way. Sometimes the cleverness in action is the best way to turn adversity into advantage. The story shows that when you know how to think differently, you not only get what you want, but also maintain the respect of others. This is an art of behavior that everyone should learn in their daily lives. Story 6. There was a pond owner who decided to launch a fishing service with an entrance fee of $20. People were excited to participate, but most of them didn't catch any fish despite fishing all day. Instead of feeling disappointed, they received an offer from the owner. If you don't catch any fish, you will be given a chicken as a gift. At first, this sounded like generous compensation and people happily accepted it. The information about this fishing service quickly spread, and more people came to try their luck. However, the majority of customers still couldn't catch any fish and left with a chicken in their hands. They all felt satisfied and even introduced their friends to the service. What no one knew was that the pond owner was actually a professional chicken breeder and businessman. Giving away the chickens not only helped him sell his primary product, but also turned the pond into an ingenious form of advertising. The customers who came to fish became unwitting consumers of his chickens without even realizing it. This story clearly illustrates the concept of reverse thinking in business. Instead of focusing on how to make customers catch fish, the owner shifted his focus to selling his main product, chickens. By turning the customer's failure to catch fish into an attractive free gift, he not only solved his business problem, but also created an enjoyable experience that attracted more and more customers. The lesson from this story is that sometimes the approach to a problem should not be to solve it directly, but to redirect the goal to achieve greater benefits. Reverse thinking helped the owner not only handle the situation effectively, but also devise a smart business strategy. This is evidence that with creativity and a different perspective, even difficult situations can become opportunities for unexpected success. Story 7. A young woman decided to open a small supermarket in a densely populated residential area, facing fierce competition from the large supermarkets around. She realized that simply lowering prices would not be enough to attract customers, so she chose a unique and creative business strategy to differentiate herself. First, she invited customers to become her friends on social media, promising a $2 discount for each purchase. In a short time, she built a group of loyal customers. Next, she regularly sent messages to the group in the evenings, announcing that there were still many mangoes with a 50% discount today. When customers rushed to the supermarket to buy the mangoes, they found that the mangoes were placed in the farthest corner of the store, and to get to them, they had to walk past many other shelves. This inadvertently caused many people to buy additional items beyond their original plan. Not only did she sell the mangoes, but the revenue from other products also skyrocketed. To further strengthen the connection, she organized mini-games in the group chat, such as randomly sending lucky red envelopes, where the customers who received the largest amount would get a 20% discount on any product. This not only made the customers feel happy, but also built a close relationship with the supermarket. This story is a clear demonstration of the power of reverse thinking in business. Instead of competing directly on prices, the woman created an enjoyable experience that made customers willing to come back and spend more. The lesson from this story is that creativity and the ability to look at a problem from a different perspective can turn challenges into opportunities, even for a small supermarket in a highly competitive market. Story 8. A wealthy and intelligent lady encountered an awkward situation when she ordered a beef noodle dish through a food delivery app. When the order arrived, she found that there was only one small piece of beef in the bowl. Feeling cheated, she called the seller to complain, but instead of apologizing, the seller calmly replied, "The noodle bowl still has beef in it, just as advertised." Rather than arguing or getting angry, the lady thought of an ingenious way to get back at the seller. She went to a nearby supermarket, bought 2 pounds of beef, and added it to the noodle bowl. Then she took a photo of the noodle bowl overflowing with beef and posted a glowing review on the platform, praising the restaurant for its generous portions and reasonable prices. The positive review quickly attracted many orders, but when the customers received the actual noodle bowls, they were all disappointed and left negative reviews. As a result, the restaurant was temporarily suspended by the food delivery platform due to the overwhelming number of complaints. The story doesn't end there. It turns out that there was a businessman who had borrowed $6,000 from the lady but had lost contact, and the IOU had also disappeared. Instead of worrying, the lady guided her son to write a letter requesting the businessman to pay back $7,000, pretending that they had misremembered the amount. The businessman, thinking he was being wrongfully accused, immediately responded, "I only borrowed $6,000, not $7,000, and I will repay the full amount on the due date." Through this letter, the lady had cleverly gotten the businessman to acknowledge the debt without any paperwork. These two situations are clear evidence of reverse thinking. Instead of directly confronting the disadvantages, the lady used clever and creative approaches to turn the tables in her favor, without expending much effort. The lesson from this story is that the flexibility in thinking and the ability to look at a problem from a different angle are the keys to success in the most difficult situations. Story 9. One day, a young woman was in a hurry and accidentally got into a taxi. The driver, realizing she was unfamiliar with the area, took advantage of the situation and charged an unreasonable fare. When the woman realized this, the driver casually said, "The traffic police are very strict these days. If they ask, just say you're my friend." Without hesitation, the woman responded with a surprising statement, "No problem. I'll just say I'm your wife." The driver chuckled, thinking the woman was joking. However, as they approached a police checkpoint, the driver quickly said to the officer, "This is my wife." To cooperate, the woman immediately said sweetly, "Honey, I want to go to the supermarket to buy some food. I forgot my wallet. Can you give me $50? The driver had no choice but to reluctantly take out the money and give it to the woman, who then calmly got out of the car, leaving the driver standing there, furious and helpless. Not only had he lost money, but he also couldn't do anything further, fearing he would be exposed for the fare fraud. This story is a clear demonstration of the power of reverse thinking and the ability to adapt in unfavorable situations. Instead of arguing or getting angry, the woman turned the driver's own words against him, using them as a tool to protect herself and take control of the situation. This is a clever and deft handling, transforming a passive position into an unexpected advantage. The lesson from this story is that in difficult situations, calmness and the ability to think differently can help you overcome obstacles with ease. Reverse thinking is not just a method to escape troubles, but an art of turning adversity into opportunity. Story 10. A wealthy jewelry store owner decided to end his relationship with his mistress after a long time together. However, the woman was accustomed to the wealthy lifestyle and did not accept the breakup. She demanded $500,000 in compensation for the lost years of her youth. Unable to reach an agreement, the owner started considering stronger measures, even thinking about using force. At that moment, a close friend of the owner suggested a different approach. Instead of confronting the woman directly, they should enroll her in a prestigious business school where many wealthy entrepreneurs studied. The owner agreed to implement this plan. As soon as the woman entered the new environment, with her own charm and sophistication, she quickly attracted the attention of other business owners. Just 2 months later, she took the initiative to break up with the jewelry store owner, as she had found better relationships. Not only that, she even got married to another wealthy businessman and returned $300,000 to the owner, with a message saying, "Thank you for giving me the opportunity to start a new life." This story is a clear demonstration of reverse thinking and the intelligence in problem-solving by the jewelry store owner. Instead of choosing a direct confrontation, which would have involved many risks, he used a clever tactic to create the conditions for the woman to withdraw on her own. The lesson from this story is that sometimes the best way to resolve a conflict is not to confront it directly, but to create the circumstances for the other party to voluntarily give up. Reverse thinking helps us look at the problem from a different perspective and find safe and effective solutions. This is the art of handling conflicts in a smart and graceful manner that everyone should learn. Story 11. One morning, a man named Tony, who was intelligent but facing financial difficulties, parked his car in a crowded area. As he was about to park, a luxurious Rolls-Royce suddenly rushed in and took the spot. Instead of getting angry, Tony went up to the car window and calmly said, "I'm willing to give you this spot for $30. The car owner, in a fit of rage, threw a stack of money in Tony's face and yelled, "Take the money and get lost." However, what surprised everyone was that instead of feeling offended, Tony picked up the money with a smile, realizing this was an opportunity to make money. He continued to repeat this tactic with other luxury car owners, and in just one morning, he had collected over $500 from cleverly and calmly selling parking spots. The story doesn't end there. As more people started imitating Tony's method, the competition grew fiercer. Tony then came up with a new idea. He rented a Maybach luxury car and drove it to crowded areas where people were willing to pay to have a parking spot. Whenever he parked, he would pretend to agree to give up the spot for $30, and he continued to make a substantial amount of money without much effort. This story clearly illustrates the power of reverse thinking. Instead of letting his emotions take over or getting angry at being deprived of a parking spot, Tony looked at the situation from a different perspective and turned the difficulty into a money-making opportunity. What's remarkable is that he didn't just stop at the initial idea, but continued to innovate and refine his strategy to maintain his advantage in the competition. The lesson from this story is that sometimes the adversities or unfavorable situations can be great opportunities if we know how to think differently. Reverse thinking not only helps you solve problems, but can also open up completely new paths, turning ordinary things into extraordinary value. Story 12. A young woman found herself in trouble when her wallet and phone were stolen while shopping. Panicked and unsure of what to do, she accidentally ran into a smart and experienced acquaintance. After hearing the story, the acquaintance quickly came up with a careful plan. He used his own phone to send a text to the stolen phone number, saying, "I couldn't find you in the supermarket. I have an urgent matter, so I've left the $1,000 you asked to borrow from me in locker number 12. The password is 7788. Let me know when you've received the money." The thief, reading the message, believed there was real money in locker number 12 and immediately went back to the supermarket, hoping to get the $1,000. What the thief didn't know was that the police had been informed by the woman and her acquaintance beforehand and were waiting to arrest him. As soon as the thief tried to open the locker, he was apprehended on the spot, and all the woman's stolen belongings, including her wallet and phone, were fully recovered. This story is a wonderful demonstration of intelligence and quick thinking in a difficult situation. Instead of giving up or waiting passively, the woman and her acquaintance leveraged the thief's greed to lure him back, creating an opportunity to safely recover her stolen property. The lesson from this story is that in life, we can't always rely on brute force to solve problems. Sometimes the intelligence and the ability to look at a problem from a different perspective are the keys to achieving our goals. Reverse thinking not only helps us escape from difficult situations, but can also turn adversity into an opportunity to reclaim what is rightfully ours. This is the power of intellect and creativity in action. If you found the stories I shared valuable, please help me by subscribing, liking the video, and turning on notifications. Let me know in the comments which story impressed you the most. Thank you sincerely, and I look forward to seeing you again.